Nellie Peters Black devoted a lifetime of service to an extended community. Blessed with a strong mind and persuasive personality, she was a forceful advocate for free kindergartens and hospitals, diversified farming, the enforcement of child labor laws, as well as the admission of women to the University of Georgia and the Georgia Bar.
I'm so delighted to find out about this lady, whom I did not know when I first became president. She had not come to the forefront, but I think that's true with a lot of ladies, perhaps. They were not recognized.
Born Mary Ellen Peters in Atlanta in 1851, she was the oldest of 9 children. Her father was a Pennsylvania engineer who came to Georgia to survey the railroad. Educated at a Pennsylvania academy with the daughters of America's most privileged families, her desire for service was strong.
Mrs. Black was educated, sent to Pennsylvania for her schooling. She came from a rather wealthy family, well-to-do family.
Well, with her original family in Pennsylvania, they had instilled in their children a desire to serve. And perhaps that's what happened in Nellie Peters Black family. She seemed to have instinctively a need to give of herself to others.
And so when she came back to Atlanta, rather than doing more of the social things, she chose to do some of the things with her mother.
One of the stories that I heard was at 18, her father had wanted to give her a diamond ring for her birthday. And what girl at 18 wouldn't want a diamond ring? But she wanted a horse instead. And she named that horse Diamond. And she used that horse to travel to visit the unfortunate and help them out, spread goodwill. They called it Errands of Mercy.
In 1877, she married George Robinson Black, a Confederate colonel and lawyer. They had 4 children, in addition to his 3 from a former marriage. He served as a state senator and was later elected to represent the 1st District in Congress.
Mrs. Black, I believe, married at 26, and she married a man who was some years older than she was. His wife had died, so she had either 6 or 7 children. She was really the central one for the family.
It was while they were living in Washington that George suffered a stroke. His death 4 years later left her with 7 children to raise and a farm to manage. In 1888, Nellie moved her family back to Atlanta, where in her early 40s, she began her career in civic reform.
One of the things that I admire about Nellie Peters Black was her interest in education, in that she was instrumental in getting public kindergarten. She lobbied down at Georgia legislature for compulsory education.
Another thing that really intrigued me was her interest in the medical field and her interest in elevating women through education and through teaching them that they had more of an equal place in the world than they were offered at that time.
After promoting the King's Daughters Hospital on Pryor Street, when the city's growth demanded a larger institution, Mrs. Black was a prime mover in founding Grady Hospital. She also helped organize and raise funds for the Atlanta Free Kindergarten Association. And kindergartens finally became part of the public school system in Atlanta in 1919.
My favorite part about her is her involvement in the farmers market, and which now, of course, is the Sweet Auburn Market in downtown Atlanta, a permanent structure that was just redone, if you will, so it's more thriving than ever.
And she was definitely before her time. She belonged to over 25 nonprofit, charitable, philanthropic, service-oriented organizations. So with that many organizations and that many contacts and people, she can make things happen.
Well, and when opportunities presented themselves, she didn't turn away. She said, we can do that, right? So I think that's what we have to do more and more.
An accomplished club woman, Mrs. Black was a charter member of the Atlanta Women's Club, active in forming the City Federation of Women's Clubs, and a leader in the Georgia Federation. She served 3 terms as president of the Federation during the critical years of World War I, working to organize the group's war efforts.
I started to think about it, and I realized that as the president of an organization like this, you don't really have the time to give back in the volunteer hours in the community that you do. So I'm sure Nellie, instead of sitting in a boardroom doing a budget, wanted to be out there, actually involved.
Nellie Peters Black was such a good fit in the Atlanta Women's Club because she realized that women bonded together and banding together could achieve so much more than one person.
For women to get away from just doing the things they'd always been accustomed to doing. But there was strong emphasis on the family too.
It's because the ladies here are true ladies, and they do not feel like they need to brag, boast about anything that they have done, because they don't do it for them, they do it for the community.
Nellie Peters Black was still in office as Federation president when she died on August 4th, 1919, following a brief illness. The Atlanta Journal called her one of the leading women of the South, stating her name was a synonym for charity. No man or woman in the last century has exerted a stronger influence for the uplift and advancement of the state.
She didn't have a lot of support like we do now. She didn't have the advantage of being able to vote, hold a lot of property, or anything like that. She just plowed right on through.
She is a pistol. I mean, she wanted something and she worked hard and she went after it, and nothing seemed to stop her.
She has made many contributions to this city and to our state and to the world, really.
The magnificent thing here at the club is that we have all the pictures of the presidents, from the beginning of time.
And they had the foresight to purchase a building as our clubhouse, and here it stands today. And we all, as we pass through that hall of fame and the wall of our presidents there, I mean, it's eerie how the obligation we feel to work hard each day to make sure that nothing ever happens to the legacy.
I appreciate how much she has changed. Kindergarten program, women in the universities, the strident steps that she took opened the door for the modern woman.
But Nellie Peters Black was one of the dynamic women in the early 20th century. And I'm so glad that you are featuring her for the Georgia Women of Achievement.